Hello and good evening. Prime Minister Narendra Modi has said India wants to become the global hub for artificial intelligence at the inauguration of a virtual AI summit where luminaries from the world over in the field are participating. He's also warned at the same time against weaponization of the technology by non-state actors. We'll get you all the details on that on Newsnight tonight. I'm Gautam Roy. And we'll also talk to our guests about the unending cycle of political violence in West Bengal on the back of the killing of a local BJP leader last evening in North 24 Parganas district. But first, our headlines. Prime Minister Narendra Modi inaugurates RAISE 2020 Global Virtual Summit on Artificial Intelligence. Says we want to make India a global hub for AI. Calls for algorithm transparency to establish trust in how AI is used. Says we must protect the world from the weaponization of AI by non-state actors. Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman assures states during the 42nd GST Council meet, says all compensation arising out of GST implementation and COVID impact will be paid in full by the centre. Council decides compensation cess of 20,000 crore rupees collected this year will be immediately released to the states. Dialogue on compensation cess to go on in the next council meet on the 12th of this month. The BJP demands a CBI probe in connection with the gunning down of its local leader in West Bengal's North 24 Parganas. Enforces 12-hour Bandh in Barakpur and protests against the murder. Governor raises serious questions over governance and maintenance of law and order. Uttar Pradesh police lodges case related to the revelation of a conspiracy to spark riots in the state kindled by the Hathras rape and murder case. 13 FIRs booked in 13 places including Lucknow and Ayodhya related to the spreading of rumours on social media. Chief Minister Yogi Adityanath says the entire issue will be dealt with strictly. Air Chief RKS Bhadoria assures the nation during the tense standoff with China on the LAC, says the Air Force is ready to deal with any challenge including a two-front armed conflict. Political heat keeps rising in Bihar in a build-up to the three-phase assembly elections. BJP holds a high-level consultations to finalize its list of candidates. A leader's killing in Purnia, the case is filed against RJ leader Tejasvi Yadav and 6 others. The nation fights COVID-19 pandemic with full intensity. India exceeds the World Health Organization's advisory of conducting 140 tests per lakh by 6 times. Recovery rate climbs further to 84.34%. Hotels, food courts, restaurants reopen in Maharashtra with safety and social distancing norms in place. And Americans Harvey J. Alter and Charles M. Rice and British-born scientist Michael Houghton bagged the Nobel Prize for Medicine for the discovery of the hepatitis C virus, a major source of liver disease that affects millions worldwide. Well, first up, political violence and targeted killing has raised its ugly head once again in West Bengal. The gunning down of a BJP local leader in the North 24 Parganas district on Sunday has raised a furor in the state. The BJP remained on the warpath against the ruling TMC in both the state and in Delhi throughout the day today, demanding a CBI probe into the case. Governor Jagdeep Dhankar also raised concern over the issue in repeated tweets that indicated that he felt there was lack of seriousness in the state's administrative and political setup headed by Mamata Banerjee to ensure justice and the upholding of law and order.
Political killings in West Bengal are refusing to die down. Sunday saw the killing of another BJP local leader and close aide of party MP Arjun Singh. Manish Shukla was gunned down by bike-borne attackers in front of a police station in North 24 Parganas, Titagarh area on Sunday evening. BJP workers hit the streets in Barakpur on Monday and blocked traffic after giving a 12-hour Barakpur Bandh call. Normal life in the city was severely hit while demonstrators sought strict action against the culprits.
Political link के साथ साथ पुलिस का पूरा इन्वॉल्वमेंट है, क्योंकि जिस हथियार से हत्या की गई है वो हथियार पुलिस के पास ही है।
The BJP was on the warpath also in Delhi. It sought a CBI probe into the incident, questioning West Bengal Chief Minister Mamata Banerjee whether she will send a TMC delegation to meet the slain BJP leader's family like she keeps sending fact-finding teams outside the state.
वीडियो जारी करके मनीष शुक्ला ने भी ये बताया था कि उनके जीवन के खिलाफ षड्यंत्र हो रहा है, कहीं न कहीं उनको किस प्रकार मारा जाए, उनकी हत्या किस प्रकार की जाए, ये षड्यंत्र हो रहा है। पहले से ही खुलासा किया गया था कि इस षड्यंत्र में पुलिस का हाथ है। पुलिस की भूमिका की जांच होनी चाहिए, सीबीआई के माध्यम से जांच होनी चाहिए।
A BJP delegation led by National Vice President Mukul Roy also reached out to Shukla's family in Barakpur. The BJP leadership charged the TMC for being behind the murder.
पुलिस थाने के सामने अगर हत्या होती है तो कहीं न कहीं इसमें पुलिस की भूमिका भी संदिग्ध है। अर्जुन सिंह जी ने पहले ही कहा था कि मेरे और मेरे साथियों की जान का खतरा है। मुझे बहुत दुख है ममता जी कि आप इस प्रकार की हीन हरकत कर रही हैं। जनता आपको माफ नहीं करेगी।
The incident also saw West Bengal Governor Jagdeep Dhankar summoning the state's additional chief secretary home and DGP to Raj Bhavan at 10 a.m. on Monday. The summoned officials didn't respond, but the chief secretary met the governor. The governor tweeted after the meeting saying, "Conveyed my concern of the present alarming scenario to the new chief secretary. I'm sure Chief Minister would be indicated all these critical issues that run down democratic governance and lawlessness. Political violence and targeted killings must stop." Prior to this, the governor tagged the chief minister in a tweet about the officials not reaching Raj Bhavan and tweeted, "Alarming, nosediving law and order situation. Targeted political killings in spite of alert by constitutional head. Neither ACS Home nor DGP responded. To CM at 10:47 p.m. would like to speak to you urgently. Only silence that speaks volumes." But the West Bengal police has held out assurances of carrying out an impartial probe into the murder.
नहीं, अभी तक इन्वेस्टिगेशन चल रहा है, तो अभी इन्वेस्टिगेशन का डिटेल हम लोग नहीं बता सकते हैं, बट कुछ क्लूज मिले हैं, हम उनके ऊपर काम कर रहे हैं.
The BJP has put the ruling Trinamool on the back foot over the killing of its local leader, but West Bengal has a long history of political violence. Killing of BJP leaders and workers has mounted since the TMC has been in power in West Bengal. It is increasingly becoming symptomatic of the intense and bitter rivalry between two political forces. With Anibrato in Kolkata, Newsnight Desk, DD India.
Now, what we've got for you is some broad strokes on the history of political violence in the state of West Bengal. Some say it even dates back to pre-independence era, but also the recent ones that have taken place. If you look at what former Chief Minister Buddhadev Bhattacharya said, he said 28,000 political killings have taken place in the state between 1977 and 96. So that's a huge number to really account for. The National Crime Record Bureau has also said highest number of political killings in West Bengal in 2018 among all states. On the 15th of June 2019, Union Home Ministry had sent an advisory to the state government over the issue of political killings. The centre had expressed concern over 96 political killings during the last 1 year. This was just last year. 2014 Lok Sabha polls, 7 political killings took place in the state of West Bengal. 1,298 political workers were also injured in the violence in the Lok Sabha elections in that state. Again, in the Lok Sabha elections in 2014, 44% of the nationwide political killings had taken place in West Bengal alone. Again, in the context of the Lok Sabha elections in 2014, all 1,350 workers injured in poll-related violence were in the state of West Bengal. That's how violent it can be. It can also take bystanders in its wake. 2003, 11% panchayat seats went uncontested. There was such intense, violent contestation for panchayat seats that 11% went completely uncontested. And this number went up further, this proportion, to 34% in 2018. In panchayat elections, these seats, 34% went uncontested. That's the kind of level of violence because of which candidates do not come up and contest elections. Experts have opined over the years that political bloodshed can be traced back to the pre-independence era as well. In West Bengal, it has roots in things like land reforms, and we will be talking about that with our guests as well. Some of the recent incidents: the 4th of October, this is the latest one. Manish Shukla gunned down in the front of a police station in Titagarh, North 24 Parganas. This is the latest one. But 19 September, not even a month ago, BJP worker Dilip Mandal killed in a crude bomb attack. And this is not all. Again, on the 17th of September, TMC leader Sheikh Naseem was shot dead in a clash between two groups in Keshpur in Paschim Mednipur. Further on, BJP worker Robin Pal was killed in Kalna in Burdwan as well. More still, on the 15th of August, Independence Day, BJP workers Sudarshan Pramanik was killed in a BJP-TMC clash over flag hoisting in Hooghly. So, a momentous occasion, celebration, Independence Day, violence on that day as well. 6th of August 2020, TMC leader Israel Khan was killed in a crude bomb attack. Violence cutting both ways in the state. 16th of July, the same year, BJP worker Bapi Ghosh beaten to death in Nadia. Further on, if you look at what happened in July, well, Hemtabad BJP MLA Debendranath Roy was killed under suspicious circumstances. This is again something that is, well, charges have been levelled against the TMC in this incident. 5th of July, BJP worker Krishna Debnath died in hospital 2 days after being beaten in Navadweep in Nadia. So literally he was beaten to death, died a couple of days later in hospital. Suchi leader Sudhanshu Jana was set on fire alive in his home in South 24 Parganas district on the 4th of July. That's the US Independence Day, although that has no relevance here. Further on, just a day earlier, what happened then? 3rd of July, TMC leader Ashwini Manna was beaten to death in Baraipur, South 24 Parganas. Going back to the previous month, June 18th, BJP worker Paban Jana died in hospital after being attacked in a clash just the previous day in West Mednapur. So these are the kind of incidents that keep taking place in the state of West Bengal, and we'll be talking about this unending cycle with our guests next after just a bit. Stay with Newsnight.
भीम ऐप का प्रयोग करके हम अपने नगद लेन देन को बहुत ही आसान बना सकते हैं। भीम ऐप के जरिए ब्रॉडबैंड, केबल टीवी, डीटीएच, इलेक्ट्रिसिटी बिल पेमेंट आसानी से किए जा सकते हैं। साथ ही गैस बिल का भुगतान या हेल्थ इंश्योरेंस भी किया जा सकता है। भीम ऐप से आप लैंडलाइन पोस्टपेड, जीवन बीमा, लोन पेमेंट, मोबाइल पोस्टपेड का पेमेंट भी कर सकते हैं। आपको किसी से पैसा मंगाना हो या किसी को भेजना हो तो वो भी आसानी से किया जा सकता है। तो देर किस बात की, अपने मोबाइल पे भीम ऐप डाउनलोड कीजिए और अपने नगद लेन देन की प्रक्रिया को आसान बनाइए।
Welcome back. You're watching Newsnight, and we're talking about, well, political violence in the state of West Bengal, because that's what's happened just last night, and a whole furor has been raised about it in the state today by the BJP. Its local leader has been killed, and we're talking about the unending cycle of political violence in West Bengal. We have two guests tonight. Praful Ketkar, editor organizers, joining us, and R. Rajgopalan, senior journalist, is also with us. Praful Ketkar, let me come to you first, and before we talk about the larger problem of the political violence in West Bengal, let's just get into the specifics here, because these are very, very disturbing, the kind of charges that have been leveled by the BJP, which is suggesting that there's police itself that is involved in the killing. What do you make of that? Is that something that has happened in the past as well, because it is a long history, or is it something completely new and very, very disturbing?
For that matter, wherever in fact the communist parties ruled, the culture of political violence came with the communist ideology. If you take India's political history, We have seen Congress ruled states, we have seen BJP ruled states, we have seen other states also ruled by other parties. But you have never seen the state machinery getting politicized and being used to eradicate the entire opposition. So whenever communists ruled, they ensured, earlier it was CPM versus all, now it is TMC versus all. You will see now CPM talking about, the political violence, the culture of political violence against TMC. Congress is talking about the same, and BJP is of course on the main radar simply because it has become a major challenger. When TMC was a challenger, TMC was saying the same thing about CPM. So essentially, culturally, in the name of democracy, what we have seen in the last local bodies election, that virtually the ruling party deny even the right to contest or exist to the opposition through a systemic efforts. And Bengal and Kerala are two states where police officially have their unions and associations affiliated to a political party. That is something, a worrying factor, and that gets completely politicized in terms of machinery, whether it is the administration, whether it is the police, whether it is, in fact, any small dealing that you do in Bengal, any common Bengali will tell you, unless you pay to a local dada, that is a party leader, you can't get through the deal. That is the political culture that has been prevailing for a long time, and many a times, in fact, chief minister themselves have accepted that, as you quoted about Mr. Buddhadev Bhattacharya himself.
Yes.
So if you are talking about 28,000 number in around 28 or 30 years period, that shows the kind of culture that has been existing in the state of Bengal.
Right. But it seems that things are headed to another extreme altogether over here, R. Rajgopalan, because, the governor summons the additional chief secretary home and also the DJP, and they just don't turn up, and he flags the matter to the chief minister as well. Then the new chief secretary goes and, who's been barely in office, in a matter of days. What does that tell us?
My understanding, Gautam, there is no rule of law in West Bengal. Mamata Banerjee is like, you cannot describe her in whatever terms, The reason being, Mamata Banerjee lost her political maturity. That is why she is having this type of zigzag arrangements. She told the officials, according to my report, it has to be confirmed, that don't go to the governor's place. That is what she instructed. That is why the senior IAS officer and IPS officers, they cannot derelict on their duty. It's a service rule. And as you asked, my understanding is that there is no rule of law in West Bengal. There is a groundswell against Madam Mamata Banerjee in West Bengal. Before the corona, I was there for a week. I could make it out even 7 months before. Now things are worsening. Thanks to your package before you introduced us, the package was very fine. According to that, I was counting. There are more than a dozen killings in. Yes. What is happening in West Bengal? My understanding, high time, before the elections, center should intervene. This month end, Mr. Amit Shah, the Home Minister, is going to West Bengal, according to the reports. At the same time, now I want to deal with the political aspects of what Trinamool Congress has been doing. Last week, in Uttar Pradesh, in Hathras, Trinamool Congress MPs went as a procession from Delhi. They were stopped. There was a high drama in front of camera by Derek O'Brien as he tore out the constitutional books of the Deputy Chairman Rajya Sabha inside the Rajya Sabha. He also enacted a drama of falling down like Rahul Gandhi. There are political aspects. Madam Mamata Banerjee, you sent a delegation to Hathras in Uttar Pradesh about the Dalit girl, which is a genuine one, no doubt.
Yes.
Now, suppose if center decides to send the official team and center asks the report from the state government, Madam Mamata Banerjee, what is your stand? you have no, authority to deny the report of the center, as well as when the center asks the detailed analysis, governor is being sent for certain, compromise between the governor.
Well, she didn't respond to the governor's message. The governor saying the silence is speaking louder than words over there. And it's strange, Praful, it's been decades that this culture has taken root in West Bengal, and surprising that Mamata Banerjee in her second term is still to do anything about it. We see these incidents happening every other day now in the state of West Bengal. That's how bad things are. Despite the fact that she herself has been at the receiving end of this culture of political violence.
This is the most unfortunate fact, Gautam, because once you are part of that political culture, in a state like Bengal, the only option to overthrow this kind of regime, the regime that we saw, left parties, you had to be more radical than the left. So Mamata adopted the same means, and virtually what happened over the period of time, the local machinery and the local cadre of CPM switched over to TMC, and they carried the same culture. The top leadership and their decision-making apparatus may have changed, but locally the things remain the same, and that's why we find the most hypocritical thing is the way Mamata Banerjee is self-certifying herself and TMC as the champion of democracy. We have seen the case of Priyanka Sharma, whom she arrested for posting a photo on Facebook. We have seen such many cases where, you can't even criticize any TMC leader. Contesting and, hoisting a flag, a party flag in any of the strong TMC areas is considered as crime. The families are threatened. There are names that you have already mentioned, but the another important aspect of this is, if I tell you about last 6 months, most of the people that got killed in the state violence are, again, because now we are talking about identities. Most of these workers, I'm not talking about the specific case of Manish Shukla, but most of these workers are unfortunately from SC and ST communities. And still,
so there might be that angle as well.
Everywhere, yes.
Right. Now, what I want to know, and this figure is very, very telltale, that, in the context of the Lok Sabha elections in 2014, all 1,354 onlookers, like bystanders that were injured, were hurt in poll-related violence, were in the state of West Bengal. That makes me wonder, R. Rajgopalan, why isn't it the most important electoral issue, whenever there are elections in the state, this culture of violence that not just besmirches the state's name, and Bengalis are generally proud about their culture and about their heritage, but it also completely upsets the apple cart where the image of West Bengal is concerned, even when we talk about, the need to grow economically, the need to prosper and progress.
You are very absolutely correct, Gautam. You belong to the state, and I have been very closely monitoring it. As you said, the observers have difficult problem during the Lok Sabha elections. What CPM unleashed violence amongst the electorate during poll season, thanks to Mr. T.N. Session type of election commissioners who brought the West Bengal. Now from there they have taken it. According to my understanding, the groundswell is against Madam Mamata Banerjee. She realizes it. Therefore, she wants to give a feeling of restlessness. That is also one account. For example, the way in which the misbehavior pattern of West Bengal MPs, especially Trinamool Congress MPs inside the parliament, is very, very, you cannot describe that. I cannot say it is atrocious. Suppose if I said atrocious, there will be a privilege notice against the person who says that. So therefore, MPs also not behaving well. These indicate there is no assembly session proper. Assembly election is fast approaching in 7 months. End of this month, Durga Puja. So when this is happening, every day one killing. If you want to get killed, go to West Bengal. That is the slogan. In Twitter and WhatsApp, it is happening now. So therefore, there is one particular section of society or being targeted by Madam Mamta Banerjee and by Trinamool Congress. Now, there is a feeling of high riskness. What Kailash Vijayvargiya and Samit Patra said is absolutely correct. And I am very sure now Mr. Amit Shah as a Home Minister must be monitoring the situation, and he will come to a conclusion before he goes to West Bengal by the month end. And by next year, early next year, 5 states are going to polls. Now,
Yes.
the Election Commission will also have a major problem. Now in Bihar, because of Corona, they reduced from 7 to 3 phases. Now what will they do in West Bengal? Such violence is taking place. Now, in the Corona pandemic, if elections are held for 3 phases in West Bengal, there will be pakka violence, I tell you, you can take it from me. Because in
Well,
my
in West Bengal, the violence mostly takes place, and which is again a very unique thing in the case of West Bengal. It happens in the post-poll scenario. One wonders what is the reason for that. Also, Praful Ketkar, also, when you look at what experts have been saying, that this is a systemic problem because of social unrest and going back to land reforms. That's why this culture has really established itself in West Bengal. What do you think about that?
I will just quote 2011. I will not quote Kailash Vijayvargiya or Samit Patra, Gautam.
Okay.
In 2011, Mr. P. Chidambaram was touring West Bengal in the 3rd phase of assembly elections. And while traveling in West Midnapur, he had to cancel his public meeting due to the local pressures. And he then conducted a press conference on, if I'm not wrong, on 26th April 2011. And he said, Bengal is among the worst governed states in the country. I blame the CPM, which encourages its cadres to acquire arms and spread violence. Now replace CPM with TMC. You will get the answer. See, this invoking the idea of Bengali identity is the most dangerous ploy. Because when I traveled in Bengal, I realized that the intellectual Bengali psyche is fed up with the cycle of violence.
Yes.
This intellectual justification of violence in the name of either stopping
Lack of social justice
or fascism, or in the name of social justice or land reforms, is no longer going to stand with the voters. They are looking for pure governance issues. Cooperative federalism is the character of our constitution, and no chief minister can afford to have 24/7 anti-center stand and then expect the state to prosper and deliver on the governance front. That is the simple thing. Unfortunately, Mamata Banerjee is not realizing this, and that's why she is taking this confrontationist stand, not just against the governor, but the entire center. And she, presents this as a rebellion chief minister who speaks for democracy. Unfortunately, the ground reality doesn't support that stand, and that Mamata Banerjee should be worried about.
Yes, certainly if she wants, she could still try and get her act together and stem this tide of political violence. I did mention that she herself has been at the receiving end of this culture of political violence in the state of West Bengal. We'll have to wait and see what happens. Otherwise, it will of course be left to the people to decide what to do about this unending cycle of violence, which has claimed yet another victim. That is the latest that has happened in the state of West Bengal, because of which there is of course a complete furor in the state at the moment. We leave it there for the moment. Thank you for joining us, Praful Ketkar and R. Rajgopalan. Okay, now let's move on for the time being. Well, a huge twist has emerged in the Hathras rape and murder case, with revelations indicating a conspiracy to trigger riots in Uttar Pradesh by stirring up emotions and violence. An FIR has been lodged on charges related to this suspected conspiracy to disturb peace in the state. In fact, 13 of them, including in Lucknow and in Ayodhya. Several steps have been taken to maintain law and order as well. Political heat has also been rising in the state over the matter, leading to surcharged atmosphere of charges and counter charges.
Politics in Uttar Pradesh has suddenly gained traction after the conspiracy to trigger riots in the state. Uttar Pradesh police has got evidence that points to an international conspiracy to create tension. A case has been registered subsequently. On Sunday, an FIR was registered against unidentified persons at the Chandpa police station in Hathras under several stringent sections of the IPC, including sedition, abetment, criminal conspiracy, promoting enmity between different groups on grounds of religion, race, place of birth, residence, language, etc.
सोशल मीडिया पर इस प्रकार के आपत्तिजनक, भ्रामक पोस्टों और मैसेजेस डालकर सांप्रदायिक सौहार्द बिगाड़ने वाले पोस्टों के आधार पर मुकदमा पंजीकृत किए गए हैं। इसके अतिरिक्त भीड़ इकट्ठा करने वालों को चिन्हित कर उनके विरुद्ध सुसंगत धाराओं में अभियोग पंजीकृत कर विधिक कार्रवाई की जा रही है।
13 FIRs have been registered in various other cities of Uttar Pradesh in the matter. UP Chief Minister Yogi Adityanath has lambasted the opposition for trying to instigate riots in the state. He has warned that anyone trying to destabilize the state and create animosity will be dealt with strictly.
जिसे विकास अच्छा नहीं लग रहा है, वे लोग देश में भी और प्रदेश में भी दंगा, जातीय दंगा भड़काना चाहते हैं, सांप्रदायिक दंगा भड़काना चाहते हैं। इस दंगे की आड़ में विकास रुकेगा, इस दंगे की आड़ में उनकी रोटियां सेकने के लिए उनको अवसर मिलेगा, इसलिए वे नित नए षड्यंत्र करते रहते हैं और इन सभी षड्यंत्रों के प्रति पूरी तरह आगाह होते हुए हमें विकास की इस प्रक्रिया को तेजी के साथ आगे बढ़ाना है।
The Chief Minister has also asked the police department to handle cases related to women more sensitively. He's also advised them to act swiftly in cases related to SC/STs. Accused in the Hathras case have already been arrested and sent to custody. The BJP has said that some political parties are trying to indulge in politics over the issue.
आज राजस्थान में 12 में एक और रेप के विषय में न्यूज दिखाया गया है। किस प्रकार एक नाबालिग के साथ वहां रेप हुआ है, ये जघन्य अपराध हमने देखा है। इसी 12 में कुछ दिनों पहले 2 नाबालिग बहनों के साथ भी रेप हुआ था और वहां के मुख्यमंत्री अशोक गहलोत जी कह रहे थे ये तो छोटा रेप है, ये तो कोई बड़ा विषय नहीं है। छत्तीसगढ़ में भी किस प्रकार से कि छत्तीसगढ़ के एक मंत्री ने यह भी कहा कि ये रेप छोटा है, वो रेप बड़ा है। ये छोटा बड़ा रेप, ये छोटा बड़ा मर्डर, इस प्रकार की जो चयनात्मक राजनीति होती है, ये जो सिलेक्टिव राजनीति है, यह राजनीति नहीं हो सकता है। और जो नाबालिग बहनें हैं 12 में, उनके घर ये सारे लीडर्स कब जाएंगे न्याय मांगने के लिए।
Amidst the allegations and counter-allegations, police has increased the security for the victim's family. A sizable police contingent has been placed in the village. Uttar Pradesh has also constituted an SIT to probe the matter and submit the report in 7 days. The state government has mandated the trial to be held in a fast-track court. The state government has also recommended CBI probe into the matter. Newsnight Desk, DD India.
Now, Prime Minister Narendra Modi inaugurated RAISE 2020 Global Virtual Summit on Artificial Intelligence in the national capital. It was a virtual inauguration. The PM, in fact, called for algorithm transparency to establish trust in how AI is used. He said that we must protect the world from the weaponization of AI by non-state actors. The PM also informed that the National Education Technology Forum is being formed and he wants India to become a global hub for artificial intelligence.
Inaugurating RAISE 2020 Global Virtual Summit on Artificial Intelligence, Prime Minister Narendra Modi called for collective transparency to ensure trust in how artificial intelligence is used. He termed algorithm transparency as the key to establishing this trust.
AI will unlock the unique potential of each person. It will empower them to contribute more effectively to society. Friends, here at RAISE 2020, we have created a global forum for the world's leading stakeholders. Let us exchange ideas and chart a common course for the adoption of artificial intelligence. It is critical that all of us work together as partners for this. I thank you for coming together to participate in this truly global event. I wish the Global Summit all success. I'm sure that the discussions over the next 4 days will help create an action roadmap for responsible AI, a roadmap that can truly help transform lives and livelihoods across the world.
Informing about the National Program on Artificial Intelligence, Prime Minister said that this program will help in the rightful use of artificial intelligence for solving the problems of society.
I would also like to mention about the National Program on Artificial Intelligence. This will be dedicated towards rightful use of AI for solving problems of society. It will be implemented with the support of all stakeholders. RAISE can be a platform to brainstorm in this regard.
Terming artificial intelligence as a tribute to human intellectual power, Prime Minister said that these tools and technologies have also acquired the power to learn and think.
Technology has transformed our workplaces. It has improved connectivity. Time and again, technology has helped us solve key challenges. I'm sure this merger between social responsibility and AI will enrich AI with human touch. Friends, artificial intelligence is a tribute to human intellectual power. The power to think enabled humans to make tools and technologies. Today, these tools and technologies have also acquired the power to learn and think.
While Niti Aayog CEO Amitabh Kant said that artificial intelligence is going to usher transformation through social empowerment, he said that India has a lot of data that is generated, something that lies at the core of artificial intelligence development.
India is very uniquely positioned to take advantage of the AI revolution. With more than 600 million internet users, there's a lot of data which is generated, something that lies at the core of AI development. We have gathered here to define a new roadmap, one which leverages artificial intelligence to not merely facilitate economic development, but also usher transformation through social empowerment.
Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology and Niti Aayog are organizing this mega virtual summit on artificial intelligence, which will continue till 9th of October. The summit will discuss cross-sector subjects like leveraging AI for pandemic preparedness, the impetus that innovation places on digitization, inclusive AI, and partnerships for successful innovation. With Bureau Inputs, Arun Sharma's report, DD India.
So leveraging AI for India's progress. Now, Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman has assured states during the 42nd GST Council meeting. She said all compensation arising out of GST implementation and COVID impact will be paid in full by the centre. The GST Council has decided compensation of 20,000 crore rupees collected this year will be immediately released to states. And dialogue on compensation cess will go on further in the next council meet on the 12th of this month.
20 states have given the option, which was also discussed today. We'll continue the discussion and see what has to be done. Nobody is going to be denied their compensation, right? Nobody is going to be denied the compensation which has arisen out of implementation of GST and also the compensation which arises out of the COVID impact. Borrowing has to be done.
So that is something that the centre is very clear about. Now, the number of protected areas in the country, which stood at 745 in the year 2014, have increased to 903 protected areas at present. This accounts for 5.02% of the country's total geographic area. Now, in a study done by the Central Zoo Authority and TERI, which is the first of its kind in India and perhaps the entire world, now this study pegs the total annual income value of the ecosystem services at around 423 crore, whereas the total value of the one-time cost of services such as carbon storage and land value provided by the zoo is estimated to be around 55,000 crore rupees. Dr. S.P. Yadav, Member Secretary, Central Zoo Authority, spoke about the need to safeguard India's biodiversity.
A new report has been tabled. According to that, there is a major gain if we manage to safeguard our forest and the zoo. What is this report all about, and what is the economic benefit that we can achieve?
First time the economic valuation of any zoo has been done, because zoo also provide a number of ecosystem services. For that matter, a zoo has its own ecosystem. There are trees, animals, there's soil moisture conservation, there rainwater conservation, and a lot of ecosystem services are there. The first time we tried to value this all economic services in Delhi Zoo, and we found that the total economic benefit out of zoo is around 422 crores. And we are not, this does not include the land cost. If you see the land cost, it's around 55,000 crores. So in this way, and if you compare the annual expenditure in zoo is around 25 to 30 crores, maximum 50 crores. But this study has shown that the return is much more than what we invest in this zoo.
Project Tiger has been a massive success. Now, apart from that, Project Lion, Project Dolphin has also come out. Do you feel that this kind of projects will go a long way in safeguarding some of the key species who are either endangered or on the brink of extinction?
In fact, as Honorable Prime Minister announced on the 15th August that the government wants to bring more projects on the line of Project Tiger. Project Tiger is a phenomenal success in the world. There is no parallel of any single species-based program in the world like Project Tiger. So it definitely gives our an experience and idea that such species-specific projects, when all concerted efforts are made for species conservation, that is going to be successful.
Appreciate your time. So that was Dr. S.P. Yadav telling us that it is imperative to safeguard these species, and this kind of projects will go a long way in doing exactly that. With camera person S.P. Dubey, this is Taposh Bhattacharya, TD India, Delhi.
Air Chief R.K.S. Bhadoria gave a clear indication of the Air Force's fighting capabilities in the high-altitude theatre of eastern Ladakh, where Indian troops have been engaged in a tense standoff with their Chinese counterparts since May this year. He said the Air Force is ready to deal with any kind of threat or challenge, including a two-front war. Here's more.
Ahead of the 88th Air Force Day celebrations, Air Force Chief Air Chief Marshal R.K.S. Bhadoria addressed the annual press conference. During the conference, he said, through modernization and operational training, the Indian Air Force will continue its combat capability and reliability, and it will keep on promoting indigenous equipment to achieve self-reliance and strategic autonomy. The Air Force also said that given the emerging threat in our neighborhood and surrounding areas, there is need to have strong capability to fight.
The emerging threat scenario in our neighborhood and beyond mandates a need to have a robust capability to fight across the entire spectrum of warfare. Our vision is to continue to scale up our combat capability and credibility as a force to reckon through modernization and operational training, and substantially increase indigenous equipment to achieve self-reliance and strategic autonomy.
Amid the ongoing standoff over LAC in Ladakh, Air Force Chief said, Air Force is fully prepared to deal with any kind of threat while simultaneously fighting on two fronts.
हम किसी भी कन्वेंशनल कॉन्फ्लिक्ट के लिए और किसी भी तरह के कॉन्फ्लिक्ट के लिए फुल्ली प्रिपेयर्ड हैं एंड उसमें 2 फ्रंट वॉर भी इंक्लूडेड है। हमारी हमेशा ये फोकस रहता है कि हमारी ऑपरेशनल कैपेबिलिटी करंट थ्रेट सिनेरियो के अगेंस्ट बिल्डअप की जाए, अगेंस्ट प्रिपेयर्ड रहे।
Informing about the induction of Rafale in Air Force, Chief of Air Staff said, increase the firepower of the Air Force. Said, 5 Rafale will reach India in November, and the first and second squadrons of Rafale will be ready by the end of 2021 and 2023, respectively.
We have 5 operational in France because our pilots are undergoing training there. And in October or beginning November, we will get 3 or 4 of them across, depending upon the situation and how we finalize. And this will be a regular affair. Every 3 months or 2 to 3 months, depending on situation, it's a variable. We will get 3 to 4 aircraft. By next year end, we will more or less form the first squadron fully, and by 23, both squadrons will be fully formed.
The Indian Air Force chief said that Air Force ensured quick access to troops and defense equipment as per requirement of the Army amidst tensions at the LAC in Ladakh. He said Air Force is capable of delivering quick luggage through advanced posts adjacent to LAC. The Air Chief also mentioned that during difficult times of pandemic, Air Force has not only helped the country, but also Lebanon and Mauritius. With Sudhir Yadav's report, News Night Desk, DD India.
Now, political heat has been rising in Bihar ever since the announcement of the poll dates for the 3-phased state assembly elections. The Mahagathbandhan has completed its seat-sharing process. It is also likely to finalize its seat distribution arrangements soon after Sunday's announcement of the LJP about going it alone in these elections. A storm is also gaining strength after RJD's top leaders Tejaswi and Tej Pratap Yadav were named in an FIR related to the murder of a state Dalit leader.
To finalize the names of candidates for Bihar Assembly elections, BJP leaders met at party chief JP Nadda's residence on Monday. BJP's in charge of Bihar, Bhupinder Yadav, party's election in charge, Devendra Fadnavis, Deputy Chief Minister of Bihar, Sushil Modi and many other BJP leaders from the state attended the meeting. Earlier on Sunday, a meeting of BJP Central Election Committee was held at the central office of BJP, which was attended by Prime Minister Narendra Modi, BJP President JP Nadda, Home Minister Amit Shah and prominent leaders of Bihar BJP. So far, many rounds of meetings have taken place in Patna and Delhi to finalize the candidate list. Meanwhile, an FIR has been lodged against RJD leaders Tejaswi Prasad Yadav and Tej Pratap Yadav in the murder case of a Dalit leader in Purnia district. BJP has launched a scathing attack on RJD over the issue.
तेज प्रताप जी और तेजस्वी जी से सवाल, आप सामाजिक समरसता और सामाजिक न्याय की बात करते हैं। आपके अपने घर के अंदर दलित नेता जो आपके थे, जो आपके पार्टी के थे, आपने उनकी हत्या करवाई और यह पूरा विषय आप ही के पार्टी के नेता की पत्नी ने FIR के रूप में दर्ज कराया है। आप आज चुप क्यों हैं? इसका जवाब कौन देगा तेजस्वी जी? इसका जवाब कौन देगा तेज प्रताप जी? कौन देगा? कौन देगा इसका जवाब कि आपने करोड़ों लाखों रुपए का इसमें घपला किया है? कौन जवाब देगा कि आपने उगाही करने की कोशिश की है? इसका जवाब आपको देना होगा। बिहार की जनता देख रही है।
On Sunday, 3 bike-borne men entered Shakti Malik's house in Purnia when he was sleeping and shot him in the head, killing him on the spot. Malik's wife alleged that a political conspiracy was hatched to eliminate her husband. She said that many RJD leaders are involved in this conspiracy. She said that after being expelled from RJD, her husband was preparing to contest elections as an independent candidate. An FIR has been registered based on her statement.
6 लोगों में पत्नी के फर्द बयान के आधार पर जो है तेजस्वी यादव, तेज प्रताप यादव, अनिल कुमार साधु, कालो पासवान, सुनीता देवी एवं मनोज पासवान के ऊपर षड्यंत्र रचकर इनकी हत्या करवाने, शक्ति मलिक की हत्या करवाने के आरोप में प्राथमिकी दर्ज की गई है।
In the election season in Bihar, this murder case is catching up people's attention. It is notable that polling for the first phase of Bihar elections on 71 seats would be held on 28th. Nomination filing process for the first phase of elections is going on, which will end on 8th October. Against this backdrop, all the political parties are holding brainstorming sessions to finalize candidate list for the assembly elections. With Shailendra Mishra and Rajesh Raj, Newsnight Desk, DD India.
And it's time now to get you some more updates from around the nation.
CBI raided at 14 locations of Karnataka Congress President D.K. Shivkumar and his MP brother D.K. Suresh. The CBI raid took place in connection with the alleged corruption case. The CBI raid started from the house of D.K. Shivakumar in Dorahalli village of Kanakpura Assembly constituency, after which raids were also conducted at the residence of his brother D.K. Suresh, who is a member of parliament from Bangalore Rural. An FIR has been lodged against Shivkumar. CBI has registered a disproportionate assets case against the then Karnataka government minister D.K. Shivakumar and others. The Election Commission has announced by-elections on 3 seats of the Manipur Assembly. The notification of elections in these seats will be issued on October 13th, while place on November 7th. The votes will be 10th November. In the current Kharif season, over 41,000 farmers have been paid about 1,082 crore rupees for the purchase of paddy at MSP. The Minister of Consumer Affairs informed that in the Kharif marketing season, more than 5,73,000 tons of paddy has been procured. Paddy procurement has started in the states for the year 2020-21. The Minister said purchase of cotton has also been started from October 1st. The Cotton Corporation of India has purchased 147 bales of cotton. Environment, Forest and Climate Change Minister Prakash Javadekar said the government will come up with a plan to improve and expand zoos in the country through public-private partnership. He said that budget allocation will be increased for this so that the experiences of people visiting the zoo can be improved. The minister virtually interacted with children as part of Wildlife Week 2020 and gave away the Prani Mitra Award. He said that government is committed to building more zoological gardens in the country. Urban and Housing Minister Hardeep Singh Puri addressed a webinar on World Housing Day. He said that the government has planned to provide housing facility at low rent in urban clusters. The minister said that the United Nations Sustainable Development Goal 2030 is a guiding document for the earth and the people. He said that 177 Sustainable Development Goals and 169 planned works included reflect the collective vision. In the Union Territory of Jammu and Kashmir, 2 soldiers were martyred and 3 others were injured in a terrorist attack on a patrol party of CRPF in Kanzal area in Pampore in Pulwama district of South Kashmir. Sources in the Central Reserve Police Force said that a team of 110th Battalion of CRPF was attacked by terrorists. 5 soldiers were injured in this and were taken to 92 base hospital for treatment. A massive search operation conducted to capture the terrorists. Former Union Minister and 9 times MP from Saharanpur Rashid Masood passed away on Monday morning. He was 73. He breathed his last in a hospital in Roorkee after a prolonged illness. Rashid Masood had undergone treatment after getting infected with COVID-19 on August 27 and recovered later. However, he complained of a sore throat 2 days ago and was admitted in a hospital in Roorkee where he passed away on Monday morning due to multi-organ failure.
Let's now also take a look at what else is making news on the COVID front around the globe.
India has crossed a landmark milestone in the fight against COVID-19. The active cases has been maintained below the 10 lakh mark for 14 days unabated. Presently, the total number of active cases in the country is 9,34,000. Government on Monday said that the country's COVID-19 recovery rate has reached 84.34%. During the last 24 hours, more than 76,000 COVID patients have recovered. The Health Ministry said the total number of recoveries has reached over 55,86,000. The constantly increasing recoveries have ensured that the actual caseload of the country has considerably reduced and currently comprises only 14.11% of the total positive cases. India's case fatality rate is at 1.55%, which is one of the lowest globally. 75% of new recovered cases are recorded in 10 states and union territories. Maharashtra alone has contributed more than 15,000 to the new recovered cases, followed by Karnataka and Andhra Pradesh with more than 7,000 cases each. In the last 24 hours, 74,442 new cases have been reported, taking the total number of positive cases in the country to over 66,23,000. And during this period, 903 deaths have been reported, taking the total to 1,02,685. According to ICMR, India has exceeded the 140 tests per day per million as advised by World Health Organization by nearly 6 times. The Health Ministry said several states and union territories have demonstrated better performance than the national average. During the last 24 hours, more than 9,89,000 tests have been conducted. The total sample tested so far has reached to around 8 crores. After a gap of 6 months, the hotels, restaurants and bars in Maharashtra have opened up to guests for dine-in facilities. The state government extended the lockdown till 31st October, but allowed hotels, restaurants and bars to operate from Monday with restricted capacity. The hospitality industry will have to follow SOPs before they welcome the customers.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi has spoken with Benjamin Netanyahu, the Prime Minister of Israel, earlier today. And if you look at what was said in that conversation, well, the PM said on Twitter, spoke to my friend Israel PM Netanyahu on phone. We discussed the expanding India-Israel cooperation against COVID-19. We also reviewed our initiatives in other areas like agriculture, water and innovation. And now, with the reopening of the country in a gradual manner, DD India has launched a Mask Up India campaign starting today with an aim to get every person in the country to wear a mask and wear it right. The reason? Well, that's the most effective, cheapest and the best way to tame coronavirus. The Mask Up India campaign is playing out on DD News, DD India as well as our social media handles starting today all through October. So come, be a part of this campaign with us.
A global pandemic that's causing havoc worldwide. Search for an effective vaccine is on. Until then, the only option is caution and prevention. Now that the country has opened up under Unlock 5, it's all the more critical that we don't let our guard down. Face mask has been found to be the most effective means to fight the spread of COVID-19. World Health Organization and various researchers have also found that masks are critical in mitigating the spread of COVID-19. When you wear a mask, you protect yourself and people around you. Wearing a face mask helps prevent the spread of COVID-19, but only if worn properly.
बिना मास्क या फेस कवर के घर से बाहर निकलने की अभी कल्पना करना भी सही नहीं है.
Be a part of DD India campaign. Mask Up India. Come and join our initiative to fight COVID-19. Share your stories of masking up with us on Facebook and Twitter.
Mask Up India.
It's a simple task. Just wear a mask.
Mask Up India.
Mask Up India.
Mask Up India.
It should really be an extension of the body. That's how essential it is to wear a mask. Ask anyone, you know anyone who really cares about fighting COVID-19. Thanks for watching. Have a good night.